All right, y'all, welcome back. It's time for day 4 fall camp news, notes, and thoughts. Please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Double check that you are subscribed. I do it all the time. There's several YouTube channels that I like to watch, and I'm not subscribed to them. But as soon as I catch it, I do subscribe. That helps us out in a major way. We're almost to 10,000 subs. There's a lot of people that watch us on a regular basis that are not subscribed. So please help us out by clicking on that button. It's 100% free. Also, y'all can join us on Patreon, especially as the season is starting. We have so much free content there. Y'all can join us there for 100% free, but we have paid tiers to get the inside information. And over the course of the year, we'll have a whole lot of that. We're going to shoot it to you straight as much as we possibly can. And you can get like a 7-day free trial of our paid tiers there. So no point not to, join us and just, help us to grow, help us to do this thing full time. But with all those things being said, let's go ahead and jump into the injuries for Tennessee coming out of day 4. So this list is growing, and we have to talk about this every time that we start spring camp, fall camp, whatever. People start to freak out, but football is a dangerous game. It's a violent game. It's 100% full speed all the time. It, takes a toll on your body. So some of these players are probably just sitting out to manage their workload and things like that. The players that are in red, they're out. Jordan Thomas, I don't think he's going to be back this year, but he could join us next season. Cole Harrison, I think that he'll be back at some point this year. I'm not quite sure on that. The players in orange are kind of going through some rehab work. We've talked about those first two. But Joshua Joseph, this is his second day not participating in anything in practice. Not too concerned there, but just because I think that he will be fine by kickoff. That's the biggest thing. You're going to manage these players. If they have any tweak, especially if it's a player that's going to be a starter, any tweak, you're going to sit them out, let them, rehab and get themselves fully healthy so that some of these smaller injuries don't turn into like lingering, nagging injuries that go on for the rest of the year. We don't want that. So this is very, very normal. This list isn't crazy. It's not, terrible, nothing like that. But Mike Matthews has been added to this list. So we have Mike Matthews and Chris Brazzell. Brazzell, yesterday, he went through some football stuff. I think he's just getting acclimated to getting himself back in shape to actually be able to play for us. And he did the same thing today. So he's just taking those steps forward. Next week, he will be back at some point. It sounds like Mike Matthews should be back early next week as well. It's really, for me personally, I'm just looking at that first scrimmage. Can we have these guys for that first scrimmage? And if not, is that a huge deal? No, especially with some of these veterans like a Joshua Joseph. Perfectly fine if he misses that first scrimmage. It really just gives us more depth. These younger guys, some of these walk-on players, they get the opportunity to show the staff what they can do, and then they can also get themselves better. So it's really not a super negative thing. Miles Kittelman, I feel like he's really okay. They're going to be very, careful with him, but he's going to be fine for that first game as long as there's no setbacks. Now, talking about that wide receiver room, you have 2 veteran guys, 2 players that I think would probably be starting for Tennessee this season. With them being out, this goes back to the point that P and I have made really since all the wide receivers left from that room. We said, hey, man, it's a talented room. We got plenty of talent. Yes, it's young. We're not too much worried about that. But it's just not that many numbers. Playing wide receiver or cornerback, you need to have double-digit scholarship players inside of those rooms. It's because football is a game where players get injured. That's part of the game. So it doesn't take much whenever you only have really 7 scholarship wideouts for that room to get down to a point that you don't necessarily feel 100% comfortable with. So that's, what our worry has been. It's not about the talent. It's just about the numbers. And there's been some speculation on Boo Carter. Will he get the opportunity to play wide receiver for us in 2025? But this is why he will get to play, and I can guarantee it, because we just don't have enough scholarship bodies inside of that room for us to not let him play there. So he also had on shoulder pads out there earlier today. And it's just like P and I said yesterday, man, he's going through that acclimation period. He's getting himself back into practice shape so that he can actually join us in practice. And I think the next week that's going to happen. I would be shocked if he's not part of that first scrimmage. Now, maybe not part of the first scrimmage, because taking him out of that is maybe kind of a punishment. But him, missing practice, that's not a real punishment. You know what I'm saying? We need the guys that are part of this team to be out there playing for us, to be out there practicing, because they're going to have to play. We just don't have the numbers in certain spots for them not to play. So Boo Carter, both sides, really offense, defense, special teams, he's going to get his opportunities because we are in the business of winning. The only real punishment, I think, for these players these days is to take away some money. So, fine them, just like the NFL does. Hurt their pockets first. That's the best way to maybe slow down some of this stuff. If it's some kind of extra work and things like that, yeah, sure. Why not? But at the same time, you're managing workload. So while you've got these players doing extra work, you got to think about it. very long season now in college football. Do you really want them having more wear and tear on their bodies? Probably not. So you're going to work smart, not hard. If there is a punishment, it's going to be something that helps this team out. And pretty much outside of that, I don't. I mean, he might miss a game or two. I think that if he misses a game, it should be versus like ETSU. Shouldn't be missing Syracuse. Shouldn't be missing Georgia. Shouldn't be missing the games that Tennessee has to win because again, this is the business of winning. But with all those things being said, let's talk about the insider notes. So not a whole lot, y'all. It hasn't been too much for these past couple of days. The biggest thing has been with the like routes on air. So quarterbacks didn't look great today. They were still kind of missing passes. It sounds like actually GMAC looked the best out of all of them. So that's interesting, but it's not for me understanding that it's such a like we still have pretty much like a full month left in fall camp. So I mean, you're gonna have good days, you're gonna have bad days. Wide receivers, it sounds like they maybe took a little bit of a step forward, but still several drops. Ra, he dropped a pass. Travis Smith and Braylon Staley, they all dropped passes. That's normal. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm still not worried about that. But this kind of goes back to my point that, when we have our veterans out, because we're missing two of our probably starting players, it's probably not going to look as good because you're going to have more like walk-on players out there and things like that. Not to say that the walk-on guys can't play, but we all know that there's a difference in that talent level, but they need to be able to step up. So it's good that they're getting those reps. I just think that we're going to end up ultimately being fine. Now, as far as just the quarterback's operation, it sounds like Mark had a pretty solid day. He was probably number two. And then Joey, he had his worst day from what I gathered up to this point throughout fall camp. Tight ends, they looked really good. I think that they've probably shown up every day more than any other group, just talking about wide receivers and tight ends, and also quarterbacks too. They've shown up the most. So that's a very positive thing. And I think that Tennessee will be running a lot more 12 personnel, especially just to start this season off. Will we do that over the course of the year? It's possible just because the numbers inside of that wide receiver room are so low and it's deeper with our tight ends that you might want to mix and match it also with more pro style things. It's easier to, utilize that 12 personnel where you have two tights out there. But again, I just want to make sure that I emphasize this point to everybody that I am not concerned. This is this typical fall camp stuff. It's typical practice stuff. Players miss time, players drop passes. They're not going to be perfect. They're not robots. So how do they bounce back, with that day off and then coming back on Tuesday? How do we look then? That'll tell me more. If we're still dropping passes, if we're still missing on I would say a very consistent basis with some of the passes that we've worked on for at least these past couple of practices, then yeah, I mean, maybe we've got some issues and we need to try to figure something out. But Tennessee can always lean on our running game. Didn't hear anything about our running backs, so I'm sure that they, practiced well. You know what I mean? Maybe the insiders just didn't get a look at them. I haven't seen any clips of those guys, so who knows? But let's talk about this room here because Kellen Lindstrom, y'all see, looks like he's working with our Leos. So Kellen Lindstrom came up and four-star guy, right? Edge rusher. I think he's got some great pass rush moves. I mean, he's got it. Like, that's something that he does very, very well. Also plays with a high motor. He's strong versus the run. But with him only being about 240 pounds, if he was going to be playing strong side end, he just doesn't have enough weight. Those guys are really like, kind of like smaller tackle bodies where you need to be bigger. Really like 265 is about a perfect weight. And really, I mean, even bigger than that because we've got guys like Tyree West. We've got guys like Don Bailey who play at about 290. So you have to be a bigger guy there. That's the whole point. He's just not there just yet. So we talked about this months ago, and we've talked about it leading up to this point that we could see him maybe transitioning over to the Leo room just because we got Joshua Josephs, Caleb Herring, and then, we have Jordan Ross. Wasn't quite sure about these other players that were, outside of that top three. How would we look there? But now with Kellen Lindstrom, I feel very good. But also Emmanuel Okoye, he looks very, very good. We talked about that a lot yesterday. And I think that that room now, we have five guys that I really like. And there could be some other ones too that we just haven't seen up to this point. So I think that that's huge. Also, talking about Don Bailey in that strong side end room, feels like he might be able to bump more inside is because the strong side end room is still deep. Even if you take out Kellen Lindstrom, still very, very deep. So it would help our tackle room out with Don Bailey bumping inside, already at like 290 plus. He could definitely play there. So, and I actually think that it fits his skill set better. I think that he has a much higher ceiling as an NFL prospect if he can bump inside and play like a three technique over being like an edge rusher. I just don't know. He's got good twitch, but I don't think that it's on the level where he would, probably get drafted. It's possible, but he would have to take a little bit of a step forward from that standpoint if he wants to get drafted. So all of those things, I think, will end up making Tennessee deeper and also help us out with that NFL draft, which should ultimately end up helping us to land more players coming out of high school or from the transfer portal, whatever however you want to slice that up. But outside of that, let's talk about linebackers because I saw them doing some blitz work. That's huge. It's something else that we've talked about a lot since last year. Linebackers really didn't do the best job in blitzing. When they blitzed, and it's crazy because we have guys with the skill set that you would think they should look way better doing it. But part of the problem, part of the reason that Tennessee's blitz packages are pressure packages versus Georgia versus the Buckeyes in games where we couldn't generate sacks. Part of the problem was our linebackers just could not get home. No pass rush moves, just very straight up and down. Hey, we're going to rush and we're going to run smack dab into somebody. You got to have some type of moves and some savviness. With the athletes that we have, I think some of the savviness that it looks like Tennessee's working on now, and I've seen that since spring. Expect for our linebackers to look way better with our blitz packages. That should help our defense out in a major, major way. And outside of that, I mean, there were really no other notes. I'll just throw in some of my other thoughts. I really like what I saw from our tight ends just in being physical versus the sled. Like we touched on, those guys will have to step up in 2025, and they're going to have to play well. We know that they can run the routes. We already talked about them looking good, catching passes, so on and so forth. I actually saw yesterday that Kit, he had a one-handed snag. And it does feel like him and Joey, they're on a good, page. I still feel like Joey's going to ultimately end up winning that job. And it just means that Kid should have a really big year as far as his numbers and all that type of stuff. And, with the offensive line, right? Just because we also talked a little bit about, seeing Sham Umarov overall playing at left guard and then seeing Wendell Moore playing at right guard. And Sam Pendleton actually got to work with the ones at center. So him and William Satterwhite, they've only been working at center up to this point. I feel like Sam Pendleton will end up getting the start at center for us in 2025, unless something changes. It's really like you can't tell too much until they start to have those scrimmages. Or I'm sure that they've had some, kind of like light scrimmage work, some like team work where the coaching staff is already starting to look at it. But the simple fact that Sam Pendleton has now moved up with the ones, with some of these reps, lets me know that he's trending towards being the starter there. And I wouldn't be shocked if in the next practice, because we just saw Sham working at left guard, wouldn't be shocked to see him working some at right guard and also seeing Jesse Perry working at left guard. So we're just trying to find the right five. But I think that ultimately it's going to be, both of our tackles, we already know it's Lance Hurd at left tackle, David Sanders at right tackle. I could see a world where Wendell Moore is on that right side, possibly just because he is that vet. We have also talked about that previously. That vet on the right side next to David Sanders that can help him with different looks. And, if something is just new to him, just because you can only teach these kids so much. They have to have an understanding of why they're doing what they're doing. So if someone comes out with a funky look with their front, with their blitz packages, that David Sanders, who's a really, really smart kid, can get it figured out and know, hey, this is what I should be doing on this play. But having a veteran like Wendell Moore, having him next to David Sanders could help him out in a major way. So I could see Moore getting to start at right guard, and maybe Jesse Perry on that left side, or maybe Sham Umarov on that left side. But we have some options. I think that we will be fine. It's a much better, to me, just from a talent standpoint, the offensive line is better than it's been with Coach Heupel up to this point. So just looking forward to how this team kind of like gels, right? Because we have to start to gel some. Whenever those pads come on, there will be some setbacks, kind of like step backs, especially with the offense. Defense typically takes a step forward, but we still have to put on our like leg pads and things like that. So that could be a little bit more of a process as well. I just think that, from top to bottom, by the time that the season starts, I would say that last week of fall camp, we should be clicking and hitting on all cylinders. The offense should start to look crisp with these first couple of scrimmages. Don't be shocked if quarterbacks are throwing picks, if the defense is winning. That's normal. That's what should happen playing football. The defense should always be one step further than the offense, but the offense ends up catching up as they gel. So Don't freak out, y'all. This team is still going to be fine. We are on pace. We are on par. We have to stay healthy. It does take some luck, right? So I'm going to be praying just like I always do to make sure that, to hopefully make sure that we can stay relatively healthy. But there will be some things, there will be some setbacks with injuries, so on and so forth. But with all of that being said, y'all please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel and leave your thoughts down in that comment section. And we hope that y'all will be joining us on Patreon, patreon.com/Bluechip Breakdown. And we'll be talking to y'all later on. Thanks. Peace. Thanks for watching. And please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel because that keeps us growing inside of the YouTube algorithm. And if you did like this video, here's another one that you might also enjoy. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.